Today we're going to be cutting open some weighted blankets to show you what's really inside and what is a typical construction. So in fairness, I'm the founder and CEO of Luxome. We are the best weighted blanket out there. In the past 2 years, we've sold over 100,000 weighted blankets, over 6,000 reviews, and a near 5-star rating. So I would consider myself a weighted blanket expert. We purchase every major competitor's weighted blanket just to make sure that ours is still the best. So let me walk you through a standard weighted blanket construction. This is what's called a 7-layer weighted blanket construction. This here is particularly the Luna weighted blanket, but pretty much most weighted blankets you find will be very similar. I'm going to tell you why ours is different also. So if you look, this particular blanket has a cotton shell, which is what they market. They market as 100% cotton weighted blanket. Well, it's 100% cotton on the outside, but then they back it with a polyester lining. And it says here on the label, shell 100% cotton, inner shell microfiber, which is polyester. And then most weighted blankets, including ours, has a batting, which is typically polyester, and then these micro glass beads that you can see. Well, you may not be able to see them because they're so micro. So that's a pretty typical construction. Now, the biggest cost in the weighted blanket is the fabric. And so what happens is most manufacturers typically, in order to keep costs down, they use a really cheap type of cotton, and polyester is very cheap. So to put these two together, the cheap cotton is a way for them to market it in general as 100% cotton, which the vast majority of companies do. And then they use the polyester for the additional strength. Because this is a low thread count, you often see beads leaking through the stitching holes over time. And so the polyester backing is really to prevent that bead leaking. But the problem with that is that it creates a lot of warmth because these two polyester layers on each side are terrible at breathability, and they just trap in the heat. So this is a typical weighted blanket construction. You got to be careful when companies market things as 100% cotton or 100% bamboo, because a lot of times they're just talking about the shell, and then underneath is a whole piece of polyester. So let me give you an example of one of our inner weighted blankets. We pay a lot more for our cotton because it's much higher thread count, but because it's higher thread count, there's really not a lot of risk of the beads leaking through these stitching holes. You can also see our stitching is significantly tighter than this one. Well, you probably can't see it, but here you'll see there's no backing. It's just a super high thread count cotton, and then the inside, which is the batting and the beads. So in this situation, it's going to be much more natural. It's going to be much more breathable, much less heat. The blanket is missing the two basically rows of polyester that you'd otherwise be sleeping with. So we put a lot of thought into it. The biggest complaint, or one of the biggest complaints about weighted blankets, is the heat. And so when we designed our weighted blanket, we said, how can we reduce heat? Because so many people are complaining about it. And we put a lot of thought into it, and we actually customized the weighted blanket with special fabrics and construction to reduce that heat. So just something to look out for. That is the inside of a weighted blanket. And if you're looking for a weighted blanket, obviously check out Luxome. We produce a bunch of videos where we just tell you the truth and we're authentic. And so continue to watch and follow. And thanks for watching.